of the limit and operated by outstanding professionals. We recognize the number of government agencies as represented in this morning for a productive partnership, especially for complementing us in areas where we lack in-house capacity along our growth curve. We appreciate the African Administration Forum ATAF for your cooperation with mobilizing other members on the African continent to come together and see how the application of science can support tax administration. To date, our science function is composed of 13 scientists, that is for both analytical and applied science units, 8 forensic examiners, 8 in construction team, and 1 GIS analyst, geographic information system. Cases handled in the last 2 years include 134 for digital forensic cases, 33 for document examination, 209 in laboratory science, 166 cases and 3 subset reports for science, applied science. This week-long training is a timely opportunity. This is the time to unlock the great potential of science in tax administration. I urge the facilitators and participants to move the discussions on application of scientific approaches in tax administration a notch higher to provide greater insight through worked examples and all real-life scenarios. Scope out the context in which the science can be applied and conduct interactive sessions that seek to draw out and understand country experiences. This training should be used as a springboard for those that are yet to start and as an accelerator for those who have started supplying the scientific approaches. As the world advances in various spheres, because of science, tax administration cannot be left behind. Many businesses and companies are involved in aggressive tax planning, tax evasion, and tax avoidance schemes. So it is the responsibility and the role of tax administrations to keep improving, innovating, and advancing in our methods. So science is one of the methods we have to use at the moment to make sure we counter all these revenue leakages in our economies. I thank you for your attention, and I wish you a successful training during the week and a happy stay in Uganda. Thank you so much. So in this juncture, I take the honor to invite the Deputy Executive Director of ATAF to come and give her remarks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Honorable Henry Musasizi, State Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and our Chief Guest, Mr. Msingozi Rujoti, the Commissioner General of Uganda Revenue Authority, distinguished members of the URA Senior Management Team, distinguished invited guests, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I wish to start by thanking you, Honorable Minister, for gracing us with your presence, and CG for hosting us. And I wish you a happy belated 60th Independence Day to you and all Ugandans. In particular, I celebrate with you for a number of reasons, not least of which is that I consider Uganda my second home after Rwanda, and so it is always a pleasure to be here. So thank you so much. So to all participants, thank you for making this happen, because it's because of you that we are all here. Honorable Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, ATAF is pleased to be part of the kickoff of the 2022 training on the application of scientific approaches in tax administration that we have jointly organized with Uganda Revenue Authority. I thank you for hosting us, but I thank you for giving this product to the continent like the previous speaker said. As you will all know, Uganda and URA indeed hold a very special place in ATAF's existence. Honorable Minister, not only was ATAF inaugurated here in 2009, but this novel scientific approach to taxation was first held here in 2018. The science model training was later followed by financial investigations course in 2021, and these are but a few of some of the collaborative activities that we do with URA. As ATAF, we have noted that indeed this is highly valued by the membership, and that is why we are encouraging more and more countries to try and use this solution, because part of what we offer is to use peer-to-peer learning as this enjoys prime place as countries borrow good practices, skills, and successful policy reforms that are adequately shared and transferred between African countries. Ladies and gentlemen, a common denominator for us all in this trade is the continuous quest to devise or learn approaches that can lead to effective taxation, with accuracy and certainty at its center to foster taxpayer confidence in revenue administrations. And the scientific approach definitely achieves this. It leaves no stone unturned. It leaves, like we had when we were going through the demonstration. It is very thorough. So I was greatly impressed by the fact that they're even able to determine some of the trade misinvoicing that may occur because they are able to determine what goes into the product. I think it is a novel way of doing things, and as we go along, I'm sure the countries and the continent will learn from URA. So why all this, Honorable Minister, and why are we trying to provide all these solutions to the continent? The reason mainly is to really fight non-compliance. And so, together with a myriad of reasons, and significantly, low tax compliance undermines the ability of Africans to collect tax. According to the work that we've done in our programs, and according to a study that was done by COBAM in 2005, it is estimated that low tax compliance in developing countries costs around $285 billion per year. Most of these developing countries are in Africa, and needless to say, we need to really step up our act. Secondly, Honorable Minister, the 2017 study by Afrobarometer shows that tax compliance in Africa estimates that 63% of Africans recognize that paying taxes is necessary for development. 72% acknowledge that taxes are a civic duty, and 87% admit that not paying tax is wrong. So why are we here? Why aren't people compliant? So the stats show that there's a tendency to avoid paying tax, and there's a need to apply all means possible, and the scientific model, like you had in the demonstration, is greatly achieving this. So as the world is fast evolving, it is also important for us to get new ways to try and protect this tax. And so that is why ATAF, together with URA, has agreed that the scientific model is going to form part of the curriculum on the continent, and we'll try and see how we can support different countries to adapt it so that they provide certainty, but they also get enough evidence to use in terms of analyzing the risk for taxation. So clearly, this can no longer be dealt with using traditional means of collecting taxes, and that is why these innovations are really paramount. And I'm happy to say that this innovation, together with what has been discovered, or what has been done in Zambia, where they have introduced a new electronic tax system, will form key examples that can then be used as comparables by the countries on the continent. Honorable Minister, I do not wish to take longer in this, but I just wanted to say that as ATAF, it gives us a lot of pleasure to see that there are solutions that are coming up on the continent to really boost what we are trying to do in terms of technical assistance, but also to build capacity within revenue administrations. And Honorable Minister, yesterday we got our 41st member of ATAF, who is South Sudan. And all this goes to show that the work on the continent is prime but it is also yielding results because we have also been able in the last few years of our existence to help countries collect revenue that to the tune of about 1.3 billion in just the last 6 years, US dollars, and to assess in excess of 3.3 billion in just the last 3 years. So all that and more is what we are trying to do. But as I said at the start, peer learning comes at the very top of this work, and we are happy today to be helping the other tax administrations and bringing them together in conjunction with URA to gain the science model, which is really a novel product. So thank you so much for your kind attention. I wish everybody fruitful discussions and training, and I hope that everybody will not leave the way they just came, but they will leave encouraged, and you'll have learned from the good practices at URA. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mary. We are grateful for those very, very cordial remarks, but also very informative. Ladies and gentlemen, before we have our next speaker, it's my singular privilege to just inform you that we have a mini African Union here. And I would just like to go through the list of countries that are represented. 18 in total. Why don't we clap for ourselves? 18 countries in total. We have representation from Angola. If you could please stand up as we mention your country. Angola. Yes, there they are. We welcome you. Botswana. You must welcome Eswatini. Okay, maybe they went out for a bathroom break. Guinea-Conakry. Yes, there they are. You must welcome Lesotho. You're very welcome. Liberia. Not in the house. Malawi. Very welcome, Malawi. Mauritania. Let's welcome Morocco. Very welcome. Niger. All right. Rwanda. Most welcome. We have Senegal as well. Very welcome. And from the south of Africa, Sudan, very welcome. Tanzania, very welcome. Zambia, last but not least, Zimbabwe, very welcome. And of course, the hosts, Uganda. Stand up for where you are. You are welcome to. Honorable Minister, those are the representations we have across the continent. But we also have representatives from different institutions locally here in Uganda, with whom we partner in our mandate, both as revenue collectors but also in the area of science. And so I would like to mention some of the institutions that are represented here, and in due course, if others stand up, we shall make mention of them. So we have representatives from the Uganda National Council of Science and Technology. Please stand up and for recognition. Thank you. That's the Acting Executive Director, Mr. Matthew Ngoro. You most welcome, sir. We have a representative of the CEO of Kemifa. You most welcome, madam. We have somebody from the National Drug Authority. Most welcome. Our colleagues from the Uganda Police Force, you are most welcome. That includes the Director of Forensic Services. We have a representative from the Presidential Initiative on Banana Industrial Development. Most welcome, sir. And from the We shall make mention of in due course. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity now to welcome Mr. Kugonza, to welcome the CG. All right. No problem, sir. With your permission.
The Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Henry Musasizi, the Deputy Executive Director of ATAF, this is the African Tax Administration Forum, Mrs. Mary Baine, our distinguished guests that have just been acknowledged from the different countries of Africa, gathered here today, our development partners, our distinguished partners from this country, Uganda, the different institutions that have just been acknowledged, colleagues from Uganda Revenue Authority, members of senior management, our distinguished taxpayers who are present here, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to everyone here. It is my singular pleasure and honor, Honorable Minister, to welcome you this morning to come and open this very important forum, the Science Forum of the different tax administrations across Africa. I want to start by appreciating ATAF, the Executive Director, who is here with us, Madam Mary, and the entire family of ATAF for the great support that you give us as revenue administrations across Africa. And the science, laboratory, and capacity of revenue authorities to develop science capacity is just one of them. But Honorable Minister, ATAF does a great job in helping the tax administrations across Africa to raise up to the task of mobilizing enough revenue for national development. I'd like to request that we clap for ATAF. On this note, I'd like to appreciate the tax administration across the continent who have made the time to come and attend this science workshop that will go on for the whole week, starting today until Friday. Thank you, colleagues, for making the time. Honorable Minister, I'd like to inform you that the members that are present here from the different tax administrations across the continent are all senior management. As you can see, every country is represented by 2 or 1 person, and the idea is that we highlight the importance of science during this forum, and when these leaders go back, they make sure that the administrations embrace and support science so that it can play its rightful role in the efforts of mobilizing revenue. So members of senior management, thank you for making time to be with us here and to attend this very important conference. Honorable Minister, allow me now to thank also the different partners who have been mentioned, like the Uganda Police Force, like the Uganda National Council of Science, members of the private sector represented here by companies like Roofings, and of course the government initiatives like the Banana. All these agencies and institutions have developed on the National Drug Authority. All these agencies, under the Minister, have developed capacity in science. So what we can't handle, we share information with them to get what we want. So we thank you for your continued collaboration and for your support as we utilize science in the efforts of revenue administration. I'm just noticing that there is a partner who we work with closely who should also be here, the UNBS. Are they in the house? but they're one of the many institutions that we collaborate with on the science effort. So, Honorable Minister, I would now want to move to appreciating the government of the Republic of Uganda for the great investment that you have made in the science initiative to make sure that Uganda and the Uganda Revenue Authority, we are able to mobilize revenue efficiently, not just using assumptions or guesswork or just using the law, but also backing whatever we do with the application of science. This whole, you looked at some of the work that we are able to do and the equipment that we use. The equipment that we use for forensics, very expensive and high-end equipment. The tools we use for applied science to test the input-output ratio. So, Honorable Minister, over the years, the government of Uganda has supported us and helped us to acquire this capacity, which we are now sharing with our colleagues on the continent in this front. And I would like to ask the URA team to put your hands together to appreciate the Honorable Minister representing government of Uganda today for the job well done. Honorable Minister, just as an example, in the last quarter alone, Uganda Revenue Authority conducted a tax audit backed by those science tools and equipment that you saw as you entered on 6 companies in the construction sector. And from that one operation conducted in the first quarter of this financial year, we are able to recover over $12.8 million. So when you see some of the improved collections in the recent days, they are coming from application of science and data. So today, we're here to share these experiences with our colleagues on what science can do in supporting domestic revenue mobilization. And this was not the only case that saved. Over the same period, we were able to save another 500 million Uganda shillings, not dollars, from using the input-output ratios to be able to know that actually what the taxpayers would have claimed for refunds was actually not qualifying to be approved. So we don't only collect, we also are able to deter or stop any false claims that could come through. So, Honorable Minister, it is my pleasure this morning. I don't want to spend so much talking. The technical teams will be presenting what we exactly do in detail. But mine was to appreciate our visitors who have traveled over so many miles to come and be with us in this workshop. Also to brave the negative publicity about Uganda and the Ebola outbreak. As you can see, there is no Ebola. Please feel free and enjoy your stay in Uganda. So thank you for coming. But also to thank the government represented by the Honorable Minister of Finance for the support they've given us over the years, and to appreciate ATAF for the great support and collaboration they give us. But finally, and not least, Honorable Minister, I would like to appreciate the URA team who have been very diligent in deepening their skills in the utilization of this technology. We have some of the best experts. Let me ask the science team, the tax investigations team that are present here to stand up for recognition of the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, these are some of the experts that we have at URA, and we are very proud of what they do, and they will be the people conducting our colleagues through this week training of science. With those many few remarks, it is now my singular honor and pleasure to invite the Honorable Minister of Finance to address this gathering and to officially open this training workshop that starts today. You're welcome, Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Musinguzi, the Commissioner General of Uganda Revenue Authority. Distinguished delegates from all the countries which have been mentioned here, heads of government, parastatals, and agencies represented here, do we have URA board members present? If any, you can stand up for recognition. I think they are not yet here. URA senior management team, which I see over here, distinguished taxpayers, the media fraternity, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It's an honor for me to address this gathering comprising of our brothers and sisters from the African continent. Last week, we had a breakfast meeting with all the CEOs in Uganda under the Presidential Roundtable Initiative, and we received a keynote address on the African Continental Free Trade Area. I discovered from the keynote address that at one time, Africa had no boundaries, that we were all one as Africa. We are now beginning to look at mechanisms of looking at Africa as one in terms of doing business and trade facilitation. I therefore want to believe that such collaborations and engagements are timely, and these are really good efforts to eliminate all the rigidities that separate us as Africans. I therefore would like to appreciate Mrs. Veine, the coordinator of ATAF, for really working hard to bring all these Africans together. Ladies and gentlemen, I remember that the first Science Model Conference was hosted in November 2018 and officiated, I mean the one here, the one in Uganda, Kampala, was held in November 2018 and officiated by His Excellency the President, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the fountain of honor, then reminded URA and other revenue agencies present to ensure that revenue collection is a liberation tool that gets our economies out of the economic bondage of debts and borrowing. Today, I'm encouraged to see that Uganda Revenue Authority has embraced and walking vision of becoming a transformational revenue service for Uganda's economic independence. I believe this change in organizational focus has driven the growth in revenue mobilization initiatives, resulting in positive revenue figures in the recent past, such as the just concluded financial year 2021-22 performance, where Uganda Revenue Authority mobilized Uganda shillings 21.6 trillion, despite the fact that the economy is recovering from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. I'd like to appreciate URA. In the first quarter of this financial year, I have seen the figures you have performed beyond your target. I want us to remind ourselves that our major policies from the Ministry of Finance are informed by science. The science model approach and related scientific techniques provide the innovative edge required to ensure that we achieve optimal revenue mobilization, especially in the industrial and manufacturing sector. It also aligns with the government of Uganda's policy to enhance uptake of sciences in public administration, research and development as a key ingredient towards attaining our socio-economic transformation. We believe that science is a lever for African countries to develop African solutions to African challenges. As a result, Uganda has fronted some key scientific and innovation initiatives to advance these plans, such as the Uganda Industrial Research Institute, an incubation center at the forefront of national efforts to create and manage industrial parks in the country. The Uganda National Council of Science and Technology plays a critical role in providing statistical competencies towards the development of science and innovation policies in Uganda. We are also pushing the agro-industrialization agenda for the agricultural sector to add value and increase export earnings from our major cash crops such as coffee, tea, and cocoa. Imagine if our coffee exports current stage earns over Uganda shillings 2.9 trillion, how much can we mint if we process the produce for the global market? We cannot forget the efforts the security agencies have invested in using science in their innovation, such as making arms, aircrafts, and bioweapons that foster the security of our country. We must remember that most scientific research is conducted using public resources which are generated by taxes from taxpayers, in other instances from donor funding, which are also donations from taxpayers of these donor countries. I therefore see the science model approach to revenue administration as one of the solutions that will, among other things, increase revenue mobilization to fund African government post-COVID recovery plans, especially service provision. mobilization of domestic revenue represents a more sustainable pathway to financing our various development needs into our sovereignty. For Uganda's case, our tax to GDP ratio has stagnated for over a decade, with the last recorded at 13% in financial year 2020-2021. I don't know what other countries' cases, Rwanda and others, look like, but I want to believe that we have the same challenge. Let me tell you how this is a challenge. Our tax to GDP ratio is 13%. Our expenditure to GDP ratio is 23%. The difference of 10%, I have struggled on behalf of the government of Uganda as Minister of Finance to see how this can be funded. Largely borrowing, and borrowing has got its negative implications on our economy. We are working towards how best we can close such gaps. At least we take it to 20% in the medium term, so that we have a narrow deficit of about 3%, which is affordable. And I want to believe that engagements like these ones, the scientific approaches which we saw out there, are good efforts, can be good efforts to enhance revenue collection. We have just heard the Commissioner General saying that just a single intervention was able to bring $12 million. We have just heard Mrs. Vayne saying that the cost of non-compliance is costing big millions of dollars of tax loss to African governments. I therefore would like to appeal to you that in this week you are here, share ideas about how you can narrow, you can improve the tax to GDP ratio so that our economies are able to substantially finance their budgets. This growth, like I've said, we are making efforts to improve our tax to GDP ratio. And this growth will enable the government to collaboratively create wealth and jobs, deliver education and health, ensure justice and equity, protect life and property, and achieve economic and political integration. The mantle of securing Uganda's future is a significant task and must be carried by all of us. The government is committed to growing our science and innovation facilities through programs such as the University Research Fund, Business, Technical Vocational Education and Training, and Uganda's Industrial Research Institute, to mention but a few. Therefore, I implore Ugandans to support the government's vision and develop initiatives that will build an integrated economy that is self-reliant. As the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, we shall support the government and Uganda Revenue Authority's efforts in advancing science, research, and innovation in Uganda. I'm confident that a lot more is lined up in the pipeline. We must keep lifting the banner of science innovations, even in revenue administration, so that other government agencies, ministries, and neighboring countries can see its importance. Before I conclude,